A US bank employee armed with a rifle shot 4 colleagues and wounded 9 other people at a bank in Louisville on the 10th of April, all while live streaming this attack. The Louisville Metro Police Department said that the assailant was fatally shot at the scene, but it was unclear whether it was from a police gunfire or self-inflicted wound. Police identified the shooter as Connor Sturgeon, a 23-year-old who joined the Old National Bank as a full-time employee last year. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear said that he knew some of the victims as well. The 9 wounded were treated at the University of Louisville Hospital. President Joe Biden called on Republicans in Congress to take action to ban assault weapons following the latest shooting in the United States. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that in response to the Louisville attack, U.S. President Joe Biden once again had repeated his wish for Congress to pass the legislation that required safe storage of firearms, background checks for all gun sales, and elimination of gun manufacturers' immunity from liability. Lawmaker Justin Jones has been reinstated to the Tennessee House of Representatives with more than a 2/3 majority in the House. Republicans on the 6th of April voted to kick Jones and fellow Democrat Justin Pearson. They spared another representative who joined them in staging a gun control protest on the 30th of March. The expulsions have become a rallying cry for Democrats nationally over the issues of gun violence and racial inequality. It is also being seen as an opportunity to push back against Republican dominance at the state level. The White House has stated that the United States is in talks with China about arranging potential visits by U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. White House spokesperson John Kirby told media reporters that tensions with China were high and the United States was eager to get the relationship on a better footing. The White House has reaffirmed ties with Paris after French President Emmanuel Macron caused a stir by saying that Europe has no interest in accelerating the conflict in Taiwan. U.S. National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that Washington is very comfortable with its relationship with France. During his 3-day visit to China last week, French President Emmanuel Macron said that the worst thing would be to think that we Europeans must adapt to the Chinese overreaction. The White House has stated that it stands with the FDA and is prepared to fight and protect reproductive rights after a Texas federal judge's ruling that suspended the approval of the abortion pill. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre called the ruling dangerous and said that it strips away Americans' fundamental freedoms and interferes with a woman's ability to make decisions about her own body. The drug accounts for more than half of all abortions. Russia has not granted U.S. consular officials access to Wall Street Journal reporter Ivan Gershkovich since he was detained late last month. U.S. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel said that this is in direct violation of international law. Patel stated at a regular press briefing that Moscow has formally notified Washington of the detention, but the United States is still seeking consular access. The Wall Street Journal continues to deny Gershkovich was spying. U.S. President Joe Biden said on Monday that he plans to run for re-election in 2024. Biden has said that he intends to be the Democratic candidate in 2024, but has not made a formal announcement. Both Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris said that they will run together. Biden, who turned 80 in November, is the oldest president to hold office. Recent polls show aging leaders are a concern for Americans in general, and Biden's age in particular worries Democratic voters. However, no major rivals for Biden have emerged on the Democratic side. U.S. national security agencies are reviewing how they share their most sensitive secrets inside the U.S. government and dealing with the diplomatic fallout after the leak of a dozen confidential documents recently. Investigators are also working to determine what person or group might have had the ability and motivation to release the intelligence reports. According to a U.S. official, the recent leaks are estimated to be the most damaging release of the U.S. government information since the 2013 publication of thousands of documents on WikiLeaks. U.S. President Joe Biden was briefed on the leak of classified U.S. military documents last week. White House spokesperson John Kirby said some of the documents appear to be directly related to national security concerns and intelligence. According to Kirby, the U.S. government knows some documents have been doctored, but he declined to speak on the validity of what was leaked. An expert in Seoul says that as a summit between South Korea and the United States nears, the two countries would not take any measures that could undermine trust between them over an intel leak. Classified documents that appeared online leaving U.S. officials scrambling to identify the leak's source. One of the documents gave details of internal discussions among senior South Korean officials about U.S. pressure on Seoul to help supply weapons to Ukraine. South Korea's presidential office said on Monday that fact checks on the documents are a priority and that it would request the United States to take appropriate steps after confirming the details. Mexico's president announced that members of the security cabinet will be in the United States this week to meet with U.S. officials. They will discuss the trafficking of synthetic opioid fentanyl. Fentanyl overdoses have killed over 100,000 people in the United States last year, according to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Mexican president repeated that no fentanyl is synthesized inside Mexico, a claim that the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration disputes. The meeting's agenda will also include topics like including arms trafficking. At least 10 people were killed and more than 2 dozen were injured when a bus went off a Peruvian highway and turned over a ravine yesterday. Local media reported that the double-decker was carrying about 76 passengers when it left the central city of Huánuco on its way to Lima. According to local reports, the bus driver got distracted and as a result, the bus fell into the river. Emergency crews worked to rescue bodies from the bus and rushed at least 12 of the 25 injured survivors to nearby hospitals. Violence escalated between police and teachers during a demonstration in Bolivia's capital La Paz against the curriculum proposed by the Bolivian Education Ministry. Media reports showed police cornering protesters, hitting them and firing paint pellets and pepper spray at them. Protesters can also be seen responding by throwing fireworks at the police. According to the Bolivian state news agency, parents in La Paz complained to the Education Ministry about teachers' work stoppages in the urban areas and demanded that the teachers who do not work should have their pay docked. The Israeli army fired tear gas at Palestinians after Palestinians in West Bank's Beit HaVelesh threw rocks at the Israeli army. This incident took place while thousands of Israelis, including government ministers, marched towards the evacuated outpost. Smoke was seen billowing from fires as Palestinians hurled rocks and burned tires here. The Palestinian Red Crescent said 191 Palestinians were injured in the clashes. Israeli-Palestinian violence has surged this year with frequent military raids in the occupied West Bank amid a spate of Palestinian attacks. Hundreds of Israeli protesters gathered in Tel Aviv on a Monday night to protest against the Israeli government after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a televised speech regarding the national security situation. The protesters accused Netanyahu of blaming the opposition and demonstrators for being responsible for recent security issues. They described the government's actions as incitement. Netanyahu said that he has reversed the sacking of Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, given the escalating security crisis and the ongoing protests. The father of two Israeli sisters who were killed last week in a shooting attack in the occupied West Bank said missing a call from one of his daughters would haunt him, told journalists during a news conference. During a news conference, he said that the feeling his daughter called me during the attack and he wasn't able to speak to her will always come to haunt him. Maya and Reena D, only 20 and 15 years old, when their car was shot at by a suspected Palestinian gunman. Iran is furthering its attempt to rein in the increasing number of women defying the compulsory dress code. Iran's chief of police said officials are installing cameras in public places to identify and penalize unveiled women. Starting the 15th of April, Iranian police will resume taking action against women who do not wear the hijab. The police chief said that the violators will receive warning text messages as to the consequences. This comes after videos of unveiled women resisting the morality police flooded social media. A gang of masked men attacked a police vehicle with petrol bombs in Londonderry in Northern Ireland on Monday. This took place a day before US President Joe Biden's visit to Belfast. The gang also threw their objects at a parade opposing the Good Friday Peace Accord. Footage showed an armored police vehicle covered in flames on one side due to a petrol bomb. Biden is due to arrive in Belfast on Tuesday and make an address at the Belfast University on Wednesday. Around 1,700 migrants have reached the islands of Lampedusa in the last 48 hours, causing the local reception point to become overcrowded. The tiny Sicilian island lies only about 150 kilometers from the Tunisian coast. According to Interior Ministry figures, more than 28,000 migrants have arrived in Italy since the start of the year, almost 4 times those who arrived over the same period in 2022. However, since its inception 6 months ago, Giorgia Meloni's right-wing coalition government has cracked down on humanitarian rescue boats operating in the central Mediterranean. Russia and Ukraine carried out a major prisoner swap on the 10th of April, with 106 Russian prisoners of war being freed in exchange for 100 Ukrainians. In a social media post, the Ukrainian presidential aide said that the released Ukrainians included defenders of Mariupol city and its Azovstal steel plant, captured in the war's opening months. Russia's defense ministry said its prisoners were freed after a process of negotiations. Russia and Ukraine have engaged in periodic prisoner swaps since the beginning of the war in February 2022, in a rare example of direct contact between the neighboring nations. The new governor of Japan's central bank announced that he plans no drastic changes in its ultra-low interest rate policy. He said Japan's financial institutions are not facing the sorts of turmoil seen recently with bank failures in the United States and Europe. He pledged to do his utmost to maintain stability in both prices and financial systems in the world's third largest economy. Japan's benchmark rate has been at minus 0.1% for the year. By keeping credit cheap, the aim is to encourage banks and consumers to spend more, spurring economic growth.